In December 1945, an Egyptian farmer, Muhammad Ali al-Saman, discovered 13 leather-bound books near Nag Hammadi, Egypt. These ancient codices, written on papyrus, would significantly alter our understanding of early Christianity. Initially unrecognized for their value, some pages were damaged or burned before scholars intervened. The codices eventually reached scholars, revealing over 50 distinct texts, including Gnostic writings, and a partial translation of Plato's. Written in Coptic, these texts were translations from earlier Greek originals, dating from the first few centuries of the Common Era. The Nag Hammadi Library offered a direct look into forms of Christianity that were eventually suppressed. Before this discovery, much of what was known about Gnosticism came from its critics, the early Church Fathers. The Nag Hammadi texts allowed scholars to hear from Gnostics in their own words for the first time. This discovery was monumental, comparable to the Dead Sea Scrolls in its importance for understanding ancient religious history. The Nag Hammadi scriptures are predominantly Gnostic, a diverse movement in the early centuries of the Common Era. Gnostics believed salvation was achieved through a special intuitive knowledge of the divine, not just intellectual understanding. One of the most famous texts is the Gospel of Thomas, a collection of 114 secret sayings attributed to Jesus, focusing on wisdom rather than narrative. Other significant texts include the Apocryphon of John, offering a detailed Gnostic creation myth with a transcendent true God and a flawed creator deity, the Demiurge. The texts reveal a wide spectrum of Gnostic thought, with no single monolithic doctrine. Various groups developed their own interpretations and myths, some emphasizing ascetic practices, others more libertine. What unites them is a sense of alienation from the material world and a belief in a divine spark trapped within certain humans. The goal is to awaken this spark and liberate it from the body and cosmos, returning it to its divine origin. These texts emphasize a personal, revelatory path to spiritual awakening, contrasting with blind faith. The Gnostic worldview was fundamentally dualistic, seeing a sharp division between the spiritual and material worlds. The spiritual realm was considered good and pure, while the material world was viewed as a flawed creation. This perspective fostered a sense of alienation from the physical cosmos and a yearning for escape to a higher spiritual reality. Central to Gnostic belief was the idea of a divine spark within certain individuals, a fragment of the ultimate God, fallen into the material world. The portrayal of God in many Nag Hammadi texts differs dramatically from the Old and New Testaments. Mainstream Christian theology presents God as the sole, benevolent creator, while Gnostic texts describe a supreme, remote God separate from the material world. The creation of the physical cosmos is often attributed to a lower, ignorant being, the Demiurge. Jesus, in these writings, is seen as a revealer of secret knowledge, downplaying his physical suffering and death. Salvation for Gnostics meant liberation from the material world through gnosis, direct, personal, transformative knowledge. This individual journey of awakening contrasts with the communal salvation through faith and church sacraments in mainstream Christianity. These differences highlight a distinct theological trajectory within early Christianity, leading to great debate and conflict. Gnosticism presented a dualistic worldview, dividing the spiritual and material worlds. The spiritual realm was good and pure, while the material world was seen as a flawed prison for divine sparks. Central to Gnostic belief was the idea of a divine spark within certain individuals, a fragment of the ultimate God. The purpose of life was to awaken this spark through gnosis, a profound intuitive realization. This awakening often involved secret teachings, esoteric interpretations of sacred texts, and specific rituals. Gnostic teachers guided disciples to awaken the dormant gnosis within them. This emphasis on personal knowledge often placed Gnostics at odds with the developing structures of the mainstream church. The idea that salvation came from within, through gnosis rather than through the church's sacraments, was a significant point of contention. The Nag Hammadi texts were not included in the New Testament canon for several reasons. Early Christian leaders like Irenaeus established criteria for canonicity, including apostolic origin, widespread acceptance, and conformity with Orthodox teachings. Many Gnostic texts did not meet these criteria, often written later and diverging from the apostolic witness. Their theological content, such as a flawed creator God or a non-human Jesus, was incompatible with emerging Orthodox views. Early church fathers viewed Gnostic teachings as heresies, threatening the core message of Christianity and the unity of the church. The process of canonization aimed to protect the community from misleading doctrines. Today, the Nag Hammadi scriptures are invaluable for understanding the diversity of early Christian thought and the ancient religious landscape. They offer alternative ways of understanding Jesus and his message, prompting ongoing reflection on faith and knowledge.